Hello and welcome. It's Boogie, and this is From a Mustard Seed. Thank you for joining me on this episode. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for finding value in these podcasts, and I hope that in some way they are helping you to work through whatever things that you're working through that have to do with these podcasts, because obviously, if you're listening to it, then it is something that is applicable to you. So if you have any suggestions for any podcast, please let me know. But once again, I want to thank you so much for joining us for this podcast and listening. And hopefully this message helps you in some way. So today, the topic that we are discussing is boundaries. So as you can tell by the title, hold up. Right? Creating healthy boundaries for ourselves. That is what the discussion is around. And the reason why I decided to do this podcast is because I know that for me personally, I went through a period in my life where I didn't really have boundaries, and I was allowing other people's opinions, other people's wants, needs, desires to come before my own, and how unhealthy that was for me. And I realized through a shift that I decided to take when I created boundaries, how that shifted my life and shifted the way that I perceived other people, shifted the way that I was allowed to love other people, and also helped me to deal with some issues of unforgiveness in my own life. So hopefully this message helps somebody. So let's get started. So for me, what I found was a lack of boundaries invites a lack of respect, right? So a boundary is a line that makes the limits of an area. And I believe that anyone who allows a limitless relationship, right, or does not define boundaries, not only leaves the door open to be disrespected by others, but, sometimes we disrespect ourselves. In other words, we're allowing ourselves to be viewed and treated as unworthy. So personal boundaries helped us to define our identity. It helps us to say, this is me. This is what I value. This is what I'm good at. This is what I believe. This is what I need. This is what I feel. And this is what I am not. And this is what I will not accept. So to know who you are and to be comfortable with who you are and secure in who you are and what you are deserving of, it's essential to all your relationships in all capacities. So whether you're at work, whether it's with a lover, whether it's with a friend, the better you know your boundaries and are self-aware and self-defined, the greater your capacity to offer empathy and love to others in a healthy way is possible, right? Because you're not looking for approval. You're not overextending yourself in hopes of gaining love or recognition. You're truly doing things out of love and empathy for other people. And in doing that, you're not looking for any type of recognition, right? You create a stable foundation from which you're operating from. And you aren't motivated by your brokenness. You're not motivated by personal insecurities or open wounds, right? You're not looking for anybody to fix you. And you're not looking for approval. So it's not selfish or unloving to have boundaries. It's necessary for you to take time for yourself and take care of yourself so you can take care of others. And we sometimes have a fear of saying no, because we don't want to be rejected, right? We want the quick fix to our loneliness. We want the quick fix to our physical needs. We want the quick fix to our relational hunger. And it feels better in the moment. But the quick fix never satisfies our long-term needs. It never fixes us in the long term. And what we end up finding is that in trying to gain this approval, in not saying no, in not creating boundaries, we lose ourselves. And then we're not able to truly act in love with the person that we're with. We're always looking to gain something. And in some ways that is selfish. and it does not develop healthy relationships. So it's very important that we learn to set boundaries for ourselves in order to discover who we are, in order to have confidence in who we are, and in order to know what we want and what we will accept, and to teach other people how to treat us. So some tools I learned in figuring out how to create my own boundaries and figuring out who I am and what I want and what I don't want and what I like and what I don't like and what really makes me feel good and what doesn't make me feel good outside of the quick fix in that moment. And so in discovering that, I found that for me in creating boundaries, I have to have periods of loneliness. I have to have periods of time to myself with God. I have to have periods of time where I am just completely content with being by myself. And then I had to look at what it is I was trying to fulfill, right? Because sometimes we do things or we utilize people in order to fill a void, but we don't even know why we're filling that void. We may go out and we really don't want to go out, but we just want to be around people, or we just want to have somebody close to us, or we just want to feel like we're not alone. But essentially, sometimes when you're in situations you just want to have something there or someone there, you're really lonelier than if you were just to be by yourself. And not only lonely, but it's digging into your insecurities and it's feeding into those insecurities. And now you're looking to this person and relying on this person to fix your insecurities. And it's unfair to them and it's unfair to you. And when you're with a person who's also toxic, it just ends up digging you into a hole deeper and deeper, and it's harder and harder to get out. So I think that really figuring out what you want, what makes you feel good, what your true needs are, will help for you to create boundaries so that you will not be in a position where you're being used. You won't be in a position where you're using other people, and you will be in a position to truly find happiness and feel whole outside of a person, so that when you actually get with a person, when you actually get into a position, you are satisfied with that. And you're not continuously looking for something else to fill that void, because you're eating and you're eating and you're eating and you're eating, and it feels like you're never getting full. And that's because you're not eating the food that's going to satisfy that hunger. And so, I think discovering that is very important. I also think that practicing saying no and being okay that if you say no, this person may be upset. If you say no, they may reject you. Being okay with that, being prepared for that, right? Because sometimes everybody's not going to accept your no, because not everybody's where you're at. And again, we can never control other people. The only people that we can control are ourselves and how we react to things, right? And that's another part of creating boundaries. It's also to keep ourselves in check. It's also to keep us in check. So in that, you have to be prepared for other people's reactions. You don't know what other people are fighting in their spirits. You don't know what other demons people are dealing with, what trauma they have. So you never know how they're going to react to you. But you can control how you react in situations to them. And that's that thing about when you're whole, when you've created your boundaries, when you've created your emotional boundaries, you can be empathetic to people. You can be understanding of people. You can approach people in love because you're not looking for that approval. So if they do reject you, if they do something that's out of character, it's not going to break you. Right? Because you're not going to take it personal, because in creating your boundaries, you know who you are. And so though you're secure in that. So those things or those reactions that people have, those things you don't get, you're going to be okay with that. Another way of creating boundaries is reading. learning, figuring out why it's important to have boundaries, continuing to grow your knowledge of self-awareness, right? And your spiritual awareness and all of these things, your level of discernment, because it allows for you to, again, it all comes back to security. It allows for you to be secure in who you are and what you are. And so these other things will not cause you harm. And that confidence, once you have that confidence, once you're setting your boundaries, once you're okay with you and okay with saying no and okay with other people not always accepting your boundaries and accepting who you are, when you have that and when you carry that within your spirit, you're going to attract those things that meet your criteria because you're putting that out into the world. You're putting out into the world, this is what I will not accept and this is what I'm looking for. And that energy will come back to you 100%. I know this because I noticed the change once I made it. Once I decided to be confident in who I am, once I decided to say no, once I allowed myself not to be a people pleaser, but to understand my value and my worth, things changed. And it changed without me having to force it or say anything or do anything. And it changed in a peaceful way. It changed in a serene way. And it really just flowed. And I also just felt myself getting closer to God. I felt like me finding security in myself allowed for me to really rely and trust in God and have faith that what God promises me and what God says He wants for my life and what I am deserving of is really true. And so it allowed me to walk my path without feeling like I'm missing anything because I choose not to. And so that was a blessing for me, and I hope that this message is a blessing for you. I appreciate you listening. I thank you for supporting this podcast. It will be available on YouTube. It's on Anchor, Overcast, Spotify, and I think what other platform except for iTunes. It hasn't been put on iTunes yet, but hopefully it will be. And then look out for a video starting this Monday. I will be having Hot Chocolate Mondays with my baby Dougie. So that's my 10-year-old son. So we are doing a mommy and son podcast every Monday. And we are calling it Hot Chocolate Mondays because we love to have hot chocolate after school and just sit and talk. And so we will invite you all in on our discussions. And my son is a character, so I'm sure you will enjoy it. So please look out for that. Have a blessed rest of your week. We are walking into the weekend. Have a fun Super Bowl weekend. All my LA fans, hopefully the Rams will bring back a championship. Enjoy your chips and salsa, your hot wings, your libations. But don't enjoy too much because we still got to go to work on Monday. But thank you again for supporting. I appreciate you. I love you. And have a good rest of your night, y'all. All right. Bye.